Hey, what's up? Andrew Kramer here for VideoCopilot.net, and welcome to Evolution. Congratulations, you've made it. Natural selection has ruled you in, and you are now part of the elite owners of the great product Evolution. So let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to be focusing on here is getting started with Evolution, importing it, working with it, what the workflow is like. And I think you're going to like it. We've streamlined the process, and you are going to be creating amazing effects and motion graphics in no time. Okay, first things first. On the DVD, we have the Evolution folder, license agreement. I'm going to check that out. Bonus stuff. That's have our gallery and a few other bonuses we'll get into. Now, the Evolution folder is about 4 gigs, and you want to copy all of this stuff onto your hard drive. Now, if you downloaded it, you probably want to kind of recompile it into a structure like this, and the bonus stuff should all be together. So, Evolution can be imported a couple of different ways. You can go into the individual folders and drag the items into the project. And also from your program, you can choose File, Import, and select the files you want to bring in. Now, what I like to do is select the Evolution folder, choose Import Folder, and it will actually import all of the contents of Evolution. So now I've imported the Evolution folder. We have all of our subcategories and all of our video files and images that we can now use in our own designs. Now if I go back to my Evolution DVD, we have our bonus stuff folder. If we go inside here, we have our design projects. And this is the After Effects project file that makes up all of the great template designs that you can edit and reuse as needed. We also have the very intuitive gallery, and if you open that up, basically you have a little web page, and you can click on any of the categories and see a pretty nice resolution preview of those particular elements. And note that these are showing 1 through 12. You click on show 13 through 24. You can see a whole bunch more. Also, there's 30 in this category. Click on the banner at the top to return to this page. And again, you can go look at some of the images and the elements. Also, you have the design template gallery, so you can just quickly see what the template designs look like. So that is definitely helpful. You're going to be working and you're going to want to look for an element, and the gallery is definitely the best place to do that. Also on the DVD we have a few fonts, and you can take these 2 fonts and install them. The instructions are right inside of there. The porcelain font is a really great font. I want to thank a good guy over at Misprinted Type for allowing me to put that on the DVD. It is a free font, but it's definitely nice to have it all in one place. We have our tutorials, which apparently you have found, and we have the wonderful Twister preset, which we'll be getting into in the next tutorial, and there are some installation instructions there as well. So definitely check that stuff out. There's a lot of great content on this DVD. This is probably the best 95 bucks you ever spent. Okay, back to After Effects. Now what I'm going to do is create a new composition. So I'm ready to start designing with Evolution. I'll create a new composition, and you can choose any of these settings. I'm going to use NTSC DV. Now DV is at 29.97 frames per second, and we'll set it to 10 seconds. I'm going to choose OK. Now I can go and start bringing in elements. So I'll go to my flourishes category, and we'll just grab one of the elements out, and you can see that they are very high resolution, and we can simply scale them down. You can hit S on the keyboard and that'll bring up the scale, and you can scale it down, or you can just scale it down in the viewer, and if you hold down Shift you can scale it down uniformly. So here's just one single element. You can bring in multiple elements. You can play them back. You just hit the RAM preview button here. You can see they're very intricate and very detailed designs. Now, right now my comp is set to playback at 24 frames per second and skip every other frame, and that just improves the speed. Well, I'm going to set that to 30 and set that to 0, and that way it's a lot smoother. But you definitely want to do that while you're working to make things go a little faster for you. Okay, now they come pre-matted. So what that means is I'm going to go back into my Evolution folder. I'm going to go to the textures, color textures, and we'll just pick one of these textures here, and I'm just going to drag it out right underneath the flourish, and you'll see that the flourish is now over top the texture, and that is because the flourish has pre-built-in transparency. So you can composite these elements on anything, and you don't have to worry about, setting a track matte or anything for that. So what I want to do now is show you how we can colorize these elements. So with the layer selected, I can choose Effect, Generate, Fill, and I can just fill it with a color. And the one cool thing too about the textures, they are very high resolution also. So I'm going to go and scale it down as well. And then for the flourish, if you hit F4, you can see our transfer mode, and you can change that to kind of create some different looks. Right now, I have it set to, let's see, classic color burn, but it's still black. But if I lower the opacity a little bit, you can see it blends with the background nicely, and it kind of looks like it's sort of blending with the texture. So that's kind of a cool thing. And you can also change the color. Great thing about After Effects CS3 is that the color viewer updates. Oh, it's so beautiful. You just change the color. If ever there was a reason to upgrade, this is certainly the one. So very nice, and it works really well. Now, another way to colorize the elements is to choose Effect, Generate, Ramp. And a ramp is sort of like a gradient, and I'm going to change the transfer mode back to normal. So from black to white, that's what's happening here. We can change that. I can just, we'll go with blue to black. And then if you select the name ramp, you can move these two controllers that are generally located at the top and bottom. Also, my opacity is down. I'll go ahead and turn that up. So you can see this is a very cool way to be able to make the elements a little more dynamic with some color. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Now, one thing you may run into is the clip may not be long enough for your composition. So I'm going to go to Composition Settings. We'll set this to, say, 20 seconds. Choose OK. And the elements vary. Some are 5 to 10 seconds or so. And say you want your element, I'm just extending the texture here, you want your element to last longer than 10 seconds. Well, you can right-click, choose Time, Enable Time Remapping. And then what you can basically do is extend the clip, and that way it kind of holds on the last frame. Now, to make a freeze frame, say for example you want the flourish to kind of stop at this point, you don't actually have to make them grow all the way out. You could sort of stop it like midway, put a keyframe, and then delete the last keyframe, and just hit delete, and then it'll stop right there. And that way you can sort of shorten them, do whatever you need. That is definitely a cool thing. And then to get rid of it, just uncheck that, and it goes away back to default. Now, another thing that's not necessarily evolution related, but something I want to kind of show you is creating a cool background, color. And so I'm going to choose Layer, New, Solid, and I'll make comp size and choose OK. And then I'm going to choose Effect, Generate, Ramp, and I'm going to change the ramp shape to radial. And then we'll move we'll move one of the points to the bottom and then the other point kind of beyond, basically like that. And I'll change the start color to black, and then I'll change the end color to black, and the start color to kind of a dark blue. So that kind of creates a nice looking, background image. Now, another thing we could do is right now we only have two colors. We have sort of blue to black, which is Very nice. And we can put it below the texture, change the texture transfer mode to overlay. And you can see that that looks very nice, the way it blends with the background. And then we could change the color of the flourish to white. And you know, that looks pretty nice. But the idea is you can play with the transfer modes. But before I go to that, what I'm going to do is go back to my ramp. Now, it's a bit limited because I only have the 2 colors. So if I select the blue, instead we'll just make it white to black. Then I'll choose Effect, Color Correction, Colorama. And whoa, Colorama allows you to change the output cycle of, say, the luminance. So what I'm going to do is change the preset to, let's see, ramp gray. So now we have that perfect ramp. But what I can do now is click, see, I can click on these different nodes, and if you double click, you can pick a color. So say I want this to be black, and then right here I want it to be like dark blue. And then down here I want to kind of go to like a greenish blue color. And you know, so on, you know, make the last color maybe like a light tan, you know, maybe not. But you see we have a much nicer looking gradient rather than just using the ramp effect. Now we are in After Effects CS3, so I'll show you one little tip. So I choose Effect, or excuse me, Layer, Layer Styles, Gradient Overlay. This is only in CS3, that's why I try to show you the more common way of doing it. But you can go into the Gradient Overlay option here and click Edit Gradient, and you can, you know, do all that same stuff right inside of the layer. Use a radial one. There should be a scale option here, and you know, you can move it around to get that same effect. And if I go to the Edit Gradient, again, I can change it by adding little points, just clicking, and you know, adding that dark blue, adding that light blue, and white. So that is definitely one way to do it. But personally, you know, knowing how to do it multiple ways is definitely helpful. So we turn this stuff back on, and we're definitely looking pretty good here. And you know, you don't have to make it go to white. You can just make it go to like a lighter blue. That way it doesn't blow out there. Also, one thing I want to point out is the elements are all at 60p, which means 60 frames per second. Now, most people work at 30 frames per second, or 25 frames per second, or 24 frames per second. Well, the nice thing about having 60 frames per second is you can use this file with any of those frame rate resolutions. So in this case, we're at 30, so essentially it's using half of the frames. Now, if we were looking at a comp that, say, was 25 frames per second, the elements would play back just as smoothly because there's plenty of frames per second to work with. So that's definitely a way to get around having any problems with, you know, converting from NTSC to PAL, all that. Just use the element at the frame rate you want, and it will sort of interpolate properly in your composition. Now, for some more basic information on After Effects, definitely check out videocopilot.net. In the tutorial section, we have this thing called Basic Training. And basically, it's everything you need to know about After Effects, and a lot of good stuff. I definitely recommend you go through that. And other than that, check out the other tutorials on this DVD. I know you're going to have a blast with it all. And thanks very much for purchasing this DVD, and we'll keep rocking it out. So, hey, we'll see you next time. I'm Andrew Kramer.